Leading this session, please welcome dear friend, high-tech board member, high-tech 100 awardee, Juan Carlos Gutierrez, CEO and managing partner of Rationale 7, a consulting firm specializing in artificial intelligence, IoT, and cloud computing. Juan Carlos is a global information technology and business consulting executive with over 2 decades in top leadership roles in Global 500 organizations and national nonprofits. As you know, he currently serves on the high-tech board, the Congressional Hispanic Leadership Institute, and the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce. A fun fact about Juan Carlos, he has been running for the last 12 years, and not because he wants to stay slim, but he actually suffers from asthma. And so he's actually done it as a way to overcome that adversity.
Thank you so much.
So thank you, Juan Carlos. Please introduce your
Paula.
panelists.
Thank you so much. 8 years ago, I was a group VP at Oracle, and I have the tremendous honor of introducing to this event Mark Hurd. Mark Hurd, former CEO of Oracle, was a tremendous leader, and he was a big supporter of high tech. So for sure, he's going to be missed, and I wanted to take the opportunity to recognize him, recognize the commitment that he has with high tech, and personally, I really enjoyed working for him. Tremendous leader, so he's going to be missed. And also, it's good to be back. So I'm an ex-Oracle, as I already said, and it reminds me a lot of events that we have here in this venue. So I'm really happy to come back to what I consider my second home. And but also, I'm very honored today to moderate this panel, and I want to introduce my fellow panelists, which I'm very delighted to share the podium with them. The stage with them. First, Paulo Manzato, who is a regional VP from Oracle. And Paulo leads communication for Latin America, the communications practice. And he's a proud Brazilian. So welcome, Paulo.
Thank you.
And of course, my partner in crime, Jameelah Harris. Jameelah is the VP of Delivery, Global VP at Atos, and also very involved with us in high tech. She is the co-chair of the advisory board at high tech. And welcome, Jameelah.
Thank you.
And the three of us are Floridians, so that's something that unifies us. All right. So let's start with this panel, and we already shared my fun fact, but I heard that you also have a pretty nice fun facts. Jameelah, you were in Forbes, in the Forbes magazine, is that right?
Yeah. So I was actually on the cover of Forbes 100 most powerful women, years back. No, yeah, I see a lot of stunned looks in the room. So before you're too impressed, I was on the back cover of Forbes as part of a Dell ad, looking all Sarah Palin-ish, like clutching my laptop, with the caption underneath that said, "I want to protect my data." So there you go.
Excellent. And Paulo, you also had an amazing experience in India with a taxi, right? Can you share that?
Yeah, I did. I was in Bangalore like a couple of years ago, leaving from the hotel to the office. Taxis, they were not available. So there was like 100 feet away, those rickshaw, that's how they pronounce those little motorcycles. So I walk and say, hey, what is it going to be, how much is it going to cost? And from here to there, I said, $3. And I said, look, I'm going to give you $10, and I drive, and you are the passenger. It was really awesome. Yeah. It was like a mile and a half, 2 miles, but he was happier than me, so it was a great experience.
That's good. Now, let's start with the content of panel, which is around intelligent enterprise. And I'm going to ask the audience a quick question about intelligent humans. Okay? So how many of you, and you can raise your hand, think that humans today are more intelligent than humans 100 years ago? Okay, very few.
Yeah. Higher, please. It's like a 1.
Exactly. What? Okay, so how many of you think a human today is as intelligent as a human 100 years ago? Okay. All right. Good. So let's break some ice. Data shows that over the last 100 years, we have evolved in terms of better IQ and also better health, right? Less mortality. And why better IQ? Data shows that we are more capable of processing a lot of data. We are more engaged today, earlier on, in terms of learning, reading. So we have to survive faster than before. And in particular, it's because of the amount of data. But also there is an effect of the communities, the global environment, the family, more competition. So the reality is that our IQ has improved, okay? Now, let's compare the IQs quickly between Jameelah and Paulo.
I know who's going to win.
All right?
Okay.
With some quick question. And let's see, Jameelah and Paulo, do you know the name of the exoplanet that is closest to the solar system?
Outside of our solar system?
Outside of the solar system.
Okay.
Can I ask the audience or?
So,
Yeah.
all right.
What do you do?
Well, JC, what is Proxima Centauri B, which is the closest planet to the next solar system, okay? And this was confirmed back in 2016, in case you wanted to know that much information as well.
Excellent.
Well, could I use Google as well, or?
Well,
So guys, this is part of my intelligent enterprise.
there you go. So that's what intelligent enterprise means, okay? As a quick example. So it's not only the IQ and how people that belong to enterprise can answer. So it's also how you use technology and how you leverage what is there out there to become more intelligent. So let's start with that definition and this, nice interaction that we have. An intelligent enterprise is basically an enterprise that is able to combine people, processes, and technology, and together have better outcomes than the competition. So if you do that continuously, and if you do that in your journey, you are more intelligent than the rest. So, but we're going to have in this panel also some different point of view, which is point of views, which is also interesting. And I would like to hear from Jameelah
Sure.
if you share that definition of the intelligent enterprise, or if you want to add something.
Yeah, I think that if we're looking at it from a very utopic lens, then it really is that marrying of people, process, and technology. Or as my new friend, first-time high-techer Arlene Espinal, who's probably somewhere in the audience, would say people, process, and performance. Mm-hmm. But it's really this concept of a way of working that is as seamless, if not more seamless, than the way we live, right? So that convergence of accessibility, of speed, of intelligent automation, and then marrying that with user experience. To me, that's what really creates that ecosystem of an intelligent enterprise.
Paulo, anything to add?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I really would like that we have an open and honest panel here. Much that we're going to discuss is our own opinions. We hope that this is very interactive. So that's the disclaimer. So to be honest, I don't think that we have right now intelligent enterprise. That's to start with. But you know, I read a lot from the MIT and Harvard, those guys. So the way that I define is that intelligent enterprise, who does not exist, is going to be like a combination between humans and machines. So we can sense, like I'm not using the word feeling, but we can sense what is going on in the entire organization, number one. Number two, we're going to process and predict and act. When we get to this point, perhaps we can, call an enterprise intelligent. But I hope that anyone here in this room, either if we are talking with a customer, selling or buying consultants, we are bringing the customer towards our journey. If we are not, talking about intelligent enterprise, we are missing an opportunity to elevate our speech in front of the customer. So if you are selling an ERP or a database or even AI, if you are not trying to understand and bring the customer to a higher conversation, I think that we are missing a great opportunity to pair up with our customers.
I think the main discussion, if you will, is an end place, is a destination, or is a journey, and which is part of the discussion that we had, and we early were talking about it. So a journey means that you are always evolving. You are taking advantage of the technologies that are out there, but this is a concept that has been since the 90s. So we have been listening about intelligent enterprise since the 90s. But today, what happens is that there is more data. So just a couple of data points. Every 2 years, the data that is created is bigger than the history of the humanity onto that point. So if we stop today, all the data that exists and has existed in the history of humanity is going to be, in 2 years, is going to be duplicated. So it's a huge amount of data. The other data point is that 2 megabytes are created per person per second in the world.
Yeah, and again, to your point, I think this whole conversation of an intelligent enterprise, this has been 25 years in the making, and will probably continue to be a conversation 25 years from now. And throughout this evolution, I think the point is, how do we take those progressive steps as organizations, and what are those methodologies, right, in order to get there, right?
So let's go with the components of an intelligent enterprise. So today we talk about different emerging technologies that are, part of this discussion.
Yep.
IoT, AI. We just had a panel around AI, machine learning. We also have blockchain, autonomous databases. So it's a bunch of concepts that are part of the technology, but it's not enough. I mean, we just talk about people,
I
processes, et cetera.
To put it plainly, right, if you want an intelligent enterprise, then you have to have an intelligent workforce, right? And at the end, it really comes down to that people component of it, and not just from the concept of how people leverage the technology itself, or the knowledge of the technology itself, but also how people manage the outputs of that technology in order to measure the performance, et cetera, right? So still that common theme for me is that at the center of it all is that people component.
Okay. So which other components do you think, Paul?
I think that the word intelligent has been so much overused and misused that it lost the meaning. So when you say everything is intelligent, so when everything is intelligent, it kind of lost the meaningful of the word in a bigger context. But there's like a consensus on the autonomous intelligence. And the first one, it's kind of a five guides. The first one is the strategy. And I'm going to just like a 10, 15 seconds on each one. It's 5. So the first one is strategy. You have to put the customer at the center, but most of the companies who are doing AI, they are focusing on cost reduction and missing out a lot the possibility to increase the customer experience. That's the number one. I was telling JC before and Jameelah, preparing myself to come here, I really went to my calendar, and in the last 12 months, I had 132 different meetings, either with end users, Oracle partners, or system integrators, 132. And really no one is taking like a holistic approach on AI. It's more like a pockets. Oh, I'm doing this on customer service. I'm doing this on a business process. So we are years away. And Clay, in the first keynote speaker, if we are in the cloud business in early stage and even earlier on automation, imagine like a intelligent enterprise. The second one is a structure. Goes to her point. A structure is that I think that the CIO has to buy in the entire organization, the business leaders, and buy in the concept of using AI, whatever, machine learning, to be more intelligent. It's our journey. So it has to be a buy-in. There's a lot of discussions. The third one is culture. Culture, we have, either we like or not, robots, machine learning, will be joining the workforce. If nothing tragic happens here, to nobody, we will gonna work with something, because it's gonna be in the next 10 years. So its culture has to change. That's your point on. And then we have 2 other things that are very interesting. The first one is talent. So they were saying that the talent that we have to hire, they have to have like a high RQ, which is robotic quotient. We're not talking about regardless AI, the IQ or EQ. And we are talking really on the STEM. It's science, technology, people who are comfortable working with these skills. And the last one is technology. We have to understand how mature is the technology. So there are technologies that are much more mature. We're talking about manufacturing. It's a proven example that robotics and machine learning and AI are real. Everything that we are doing, if anyone had a chance to go on a manufacturing and see how you manufacture a car, it's beautiful.
Yeah, and I think it's a great point, right? But when you think about manufacturing, I think manufacturing is much more linear in terms of the processes, right? When you start to think about components like your workforce, like ERGs and human resource, and start to look at to your point, looking at things more holistically across an enterprise, then you have to start taking into consideration things like sentiment, things like intent. You have much more human variables that now become components that make it much more difficult than something as linear as manufacturing, right? So I think that's something else that we have to take into consideration. And touching on a point that you made earlier, this is where, if the focus is consistently cost optimization, cost reduction, the operational components, and we don't have the buy-in at the topmost company level and a roadmap that's really creating a journey across all business units, not just a business unit, it's going to be really difficult to achieve that end-to-end intelligent enterprise.
I agree.
And you touch a point about the experience and the sentiments and the human part. And
Yeah.
I think we all agree that people from that component and then processes and then technology at the end, but it's really people, the one that drive the change.
Yeah.
And there is a say also that is intelligent experiences, the one that drive intelligent enterprises. Because it's the experiences of the consumers, the employees, or the distributors, the ecosystem, that is the one pushing for a more intelligent company.
Yeah, and I think we touched about that. We touched on that, briefly, because I know that you had we were having this whole conversation about Netflix.
Right,
Yeah.
right, and that, and we can start with some examples of that.
Yeah.
So Netflix, for example, just one example. If I ask you how many of you use or have used Netflix in the past, right? And so I'm not making any advertising for any company here, but it's really a disruption of the model that we used to consume content, right? And that disruption came based on a much better experience. So we could see whatever content is available anywhere in the world, in any device, personalized. And the technology really changed because it was CDs in the past.
Yep.
And evolved based on the experience.
Yeah, but because think about it, right? When you think about cable, satellite, whatever the case is, right? You still have accessibility to movies. You
Right.
still have accessibility to this content, and so the differentiator was really that experiential component, right?
Right, and personalized, so recommendations, et cetera. So any other examples from your side about intelligent enterprise and these technologies, how are changing the companies?
Yeah, and so I'm going to talk a little bit, and I'll mention a client, right? With, but when
If you can.
yeah. But how many of you have been to Disney World? All right. So most of you have been to Disney World. How would you feel if you're waiting, an hour to get on Splash Mountain, and all of a sudden you're getting to the front of the line, and they tell you, "Oh, I'm sorry,
It's close.
the ride is not operational at the moment." Disappointment, right? Now imagine what that means for Disney as a company as well, right? Because now it's affecting their brand. It's something where they now have to go and find ways of compensating each of the folks that were now impacted by this. When you think about the intelligent enterprise, behind the scenes, it's the ability to then go back and have the right analytics for each of these rides in order to make to do that preventive maintenance, and the components that are very proactive that say, hey, wait a second. If I now know that there is a component or a part that is potentially going to fail in the next couple of weeks, you're now proactively able to address that, and you've now addressed subsequently what would have been a chain reaction of the downtime or the misoperation of the rides, right? And this goes back to the way that they're able to work.
Right.
So that's one example.
Okay. Well, the one that I would like to share, the customer is in Panama, and represents very well how the companies are adopting. So, we could sell Oracle. I'm not advertising, but we could help the customer putting a piece of machine learning on how it's a supermarket. They have 50 branches in Panama, data centers in US, Miami and Virginia. And with machine learning, using a technology, SD-WAN, they could really cut in half the cost, which was really the primary objective, and they could much better the customer experience. So it's really kind of one example of but it was not part of a big scheme of things. They were trying to get a technology who could cost reduction in a part of their business, in IT operations. But it is is a component which include machine learning, that we hope that it will be a part of a bigger picture in the near future. So I think that I selected something very simple, but I think that it's 95% of the case uses is going to be what they did.
Let's talk about something that impacts probably everybody in this room, right? Workplace services. We all work for companies. We all have to deal with workplace services when you talk about the device lifecycle management, when you talk about the Internet of Things within the environments that we work in. That's something that impacts each and every one of us, right? And the way that we're able to tie this together, that's part of the intelligent enterprise. So what do I mean by workplace services? Okay, we all need laptops to work, right? Sometimes getting those laptops not the best experience for us. And sometimes you get the laptop and all of a sudden you have components on the laptop that fail, software that fails. This concept of the intelligent enterprise interlays technologies like that machine learning and like analytics in order to do the health checks in your devices in order to determine when it's time to refresh or when it's time to address an issue with your laptop. So again, I think that's something that I think everybody would understand. It ties back not only to a device, it ties back to experience, and it ties back to the technology aspect as well.
Just a quick reference also from my experience to a university in South Florida that using, as Paulo was saying, a component, doesn't have to be the whole enterprise, but using a component to test and evolve. This university came with an application of a blockchain for a nice use case, which is elections of the student government. So applying blockchain for the elections made them smarter and more intelligent because the vote now is more transparent, secret, and is in a blockchain contract, easy to implement. And that's the concept of intelligent enterprise, leveraging that technology, that emerging technology, to improve a process or to improve the whole enterprise. And with that example, now this university is taking that use case of elections, building a solution, and also replicating that for other colleges. So, and that's again an example of how you leverage what is there to do to make your company more efficient and more productive, right? Any other examples you want to share? Or?
No, I'm curious, right? And I know, guys, I'm aware it's the end of the day, and it's been a very long day, you know, and you've already had lunch. And that's starting to settle, right? So I want to make sure that we're keeping this as interactive as possible, right?
So let's ask those questions. Huh?
Yes, yeah. So we can do a quick Q&A, but I'm also just curious. Before kind of this conversation and the conversations that you heard earlier today, how many folks have had this type of conversation within your organizations about the concept of an intelligent enterprise? I'm just curious. There you go. So I think that's interesting, right?
Yep.
I mean, it's not a new concept.
Do you mind share?
Right.
Do you mind share what exactly you guys are doing? No, her. No, I mean it's a.
So we call it a little bit different at IBM. It's about infusing AI everywhere throughout your business processes to any like industry. Like one example is in the retail industry, just the concept, for example, of using data when somebody is buying, knowing like what are when they are going through an aisle and looking at certain products, get like a sales coupon. Okay. Right away, based on some data and analytics. Real time. So it's really about infusing AI everywhere.
Nice. Yeah, and now you mentioned IBM, so of course I have to bring up, you know, the Jeopardy challenge. back in the 90s, which I think was one of the earlier times when they really started to have this idea of, okay, how do we really get AI to work in a way where it's not just something like chess, where you have a set number of possibilities and probabilities, right? But now you've got, again, this idea of the sentiment and the content and the context, et cetera, right? So pretty interesting, because I know IBM has done quite a bit.
We have time for some questions. Just one question? Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of a blink. Just like to reinforce, look, everyone here talks with customers every day, or we should be. If we miss the opportunity, look, I'm picking up on Daryl, but if you miss the opportunity when you're selling what you're selling, to elevate the pitch on what you're doing, bringing the company on closer to intelligent enterprise, you're missing opportunity. And I try on every conversation to include that, even if if the person is not kind of intelligent enterprise. No, I want to buy my hardware here and that's it. So I just like to invite to elevate the pitch, us here in this room. I think it's going to be beneficial for all of us professionally, in our careers.
Yeah, and it looks like we've got 5 seconds till you don't have to hear our marvelous voices anymore. But one last thing that I would say is, again, I would encourage, we've got a lot of leaders in the room when it comes to technology, right? And it's really getting to that point where we are having the conversation about the end-to-end roadmap and the journey and making that investment. And it may not be what your shareholders are looking for at this, in terms of an instant gratification, right? But it's something that we do have to have that conversation about, making sure that we're looking at it as end-to-end in order to build the right ecosystem across the enterprise.
Just a final thought, just like we share some diversity in terms of point of views, diversity is key for innovation, and diversity is key for an intelligent enterprise. Yep. So just take that as an example, bring diversity to the teams, and translate that in a more intelligent implementation in your companies, okay? So with that, thank you so much for your participation.
Thank you,
Jameelah.
Thank
Paulo,
you, audience.
Thank you to all of you. All right?